Hey everybody, I think I'm here. It was a little slow coming on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Hannah Morgan, the Career Sherpa, and we are here today talking about this week's Summary Sunday, which is a whole collection of how-tos. I want to thank you all for being here. Welcome. I'm going to put a link right now to this week's Summary Sunday in case you missed it in the first comment. So if you want to follow along, feel free to do so. And if you are joining me, whether it's the first time or you're returning for a multiple time, I'd love to hear from you. So can you tell me down in the comments where you're from? And just let me know that you're here and you're watching, because sometimes it gets lonely and I want to make sure that there are people here. So welcome to Job Search Live. And this is November 30th. We just got done with Thanksgiving, and I am wishing you all a late but happy Thanksgiving. I hope you had a good day and a good long weekend, and that you were able to spend some time rejuvenating and eating and spending time doing stuff that was important to you. So I hope that was the case. Um, we didn't do anything exciting here. We just had dinner with the four of us and ate all our favorite Thanksgiving food. I want to thank Marina and Matt. Hey, great to see you. Thanks for being here with me today. This week's Summary Sunday was about how-tos. And the first article I shared, which was, it's sort of referred to as the ultimate guide to acing your video interview, tips for job candidates, pretty much says it all right there. If you have not read this article, you need to read this full article. It is filled with very practical and important tips for you to understand when you are using video to interview. There's information on lighting, on equipment, on how to answer the interview questions, how to build rapport with somebody, how to look at the camera. All of the really important things that you must know about if you are, and you will be, having interviews through video. There's also a section on the difference between video interviews that are live, real time, going back and forth, and the ones that are recorded or one-way interviews. And there's some explanation there about why employers do that. And I know there's some bad blood about why job seekers don't like doing that. They think it's a waste of their time. But I'm not so sure that that is the best attitude to have because companies are using some of that technology. So really all that means is you record the best answer you can and the company then keeps that on file and they do it. It's like a phone screen. So don't be mad about that. Just know that companies are using that kind of technology, and if you want to understand it, which I hope you do, then you go read that full article, which was done by VidCruiter. VidCruiter is a company that creates video recruiting tools and technology for companies to use. And a lot of the people that I value and respect were quoted, career people were quoted in that article. So you'll recognize some of those names as you skim through and see some of the tips from career pros you should know. The next article came from the Muse, and it was how to talk about your layoff. um, your COVID layoff. What I liked about this article were a couple of things. Number one, again, anything that the Muse does is really beneficial. But two of my favorite people were quoted or referenced. My career people were referenced in this article. One is Lisa Rangel of Chameleon Resumes. The other is Steve Levy. And shout out to Steve Levy. He's probably not watching. He's busy working. But Steve and I have known each other, Lisa, have known each other for over 10 years. Steve is doing technical sourcing for M&T Bank now, and M&T Bank's headquarters are in Buffalo, New York. So he spends a lot of time, and he has not yet looked me up, but the next time he says he comes into town, he's gonna let me know that he's in town so we can see each other. But he is giving practical advice, and so is Lisa, on how to manage those questions that you might get about people that from people about your layoff and what you've been doing and where do you disclose that you are laid off due to the pandemic, or do you? So that is why you need to go read that very interesting article on the Muse. Okay. I'm going to always say right now as I'm going through these articles, if you have questions or concerns related to your job search, put them in the comments and I'll come back and look at that before I end the call. So I want to make sure that we answer those. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Thanks for being here today. The next article was written by Austin Belkak, and he is the founder of Cultivated Culture. If you aren't familiar with him, you probably have seen him on LinkedIn. He's very active and has a very large following. But Austin gives four very important pieces of information about networking and how to do it the right way because too many people do it the wrong way. And I just read an article somewhere else and it made me think, oh shoot, maybe I am doing it the wrong way too. Have you ever had the situation where, so please go read this article on Cultivated Culture about how to network, four strategies for connecting the right way. So, have you ever had a situation where somebody says, "Hey, Hannah, I'd really love to meet with so and so, Jim Smith. He's in your network. Could you introduce us?" And if I know Jim Smith, or even if I don't know him that well, I usually will do that. I'll send a quick email, and in the headline, the subject matter of the email, I say, "Introducing Jim and Sally." Um, so then I go and explain a little bit about how I know Jim and how I know Sally, and I say, the rest is up to you all, take it from here. Well, I just read an article somewhere that said that that was a really bad thing to do because what I have essentially done is given the email of Jim to Sally without Jim's permission first. Maybe Jim doesn't want to network with Sally. Maybe Jim doesn't like doing that. So the article I read said I really should get permission from Jim first before I go to make that mutual introduction. And I can certainly do that after if Jim says yes, go ahead, I'd love to meet them. So that is something that I do wrong that maybe you are doing wrong too. Before you introduce two people, always ask the person that wants to that ask people first if it's okay if you facilitate that introduction. Yep. So, yep, leave it to me to do it wrong. We all make mistakes. I won't be doing that anymore. The other articles were about how to prepare for a job interview using LinkedIn, which came from one of this year's top voices, Hannah Mason, not to be confused with Hannah Morgan. Hannah Mason is the founder of the English Meeting Room, and she wrote an article about how to prepare for your job interview using LinkedIn. So in other words, what to research and what to be looking for when you go to the person's profile and the company profile. So that's really helpful. I also included an article from John Asperian of Asperian Technical Copywriting. He's somebody I've been following on LinkedIn for a long time, and he created this list of LinkedIn experts. And I believe that you should be following those people too. I am certainly knowledgeable about LinkedIn, but I follow a lot of the great experts. So the reason I share this with you is you too could become very knowledgeable on LinkedIn if you wanted to by following some of the people that John Asperian recommends. So you don't need to come to me for all the information. You can go directly to some of these experts who I get the information from as well. So then there was an article that is a little bit older, but I want to bring this back to people's attention that Twitter is a really wonderful tool for job search. Twitter. Yep, Twitter. And so the article is entitled How to Get Twitter Influencers to Notice You in a Good Way, and that's by Agorapulse. Here's the deal. You don't need to get on the attention of influencers, as in influencers, but you do want to get the attention. And so everything that the advice that that article shares works, whether you're trying to get the attention of a hiring manager or an employee or just people in general to bring a greater awareness of you and what you bring to the table. So that was a great article about how to use Twitter to really get on people's radar. And so the last set of articles, which sort of floored me a little, were on remote work and workplace trends. I've had conversations with some job search coaches, and we are all sort of optimistic, positive about the fact that more and more companies have had to embrace by force remote work and offering remote work to their employees, and how LinkedIn now gives you the ability to search in their jobs by a filter for remote work. And Indeed offers that. In the olden days, like last year, the only place you could really go to look for jobs that were truly remote were tools like job boards like Flex Jobs was like the only place you could really go to find that. Now, almost all the job boards and job search tools have added that flexibility. So we're all really optimistic. But then I saw these two articles and I'm beginning to think differently. The first article said was a survey by Gallup that interviewed thousands of people, maybe it was 10,000 people, something like that. And it found that 33% of US workers are always working remotely. 25% are sometimes working remotely, and 41% are never working remotely. And Gallup found, as they sort of tracked this before the beginning of pandemic till now, that the number of people who are not working remotely, in other words, are going back into the workplace, the percentage of those numbers is rising. In other words, people going back to the office. And I know that my hope has always been that there'd be more of a flex or a hybrid situation where you wouldn't have to go into the office all the time, just sometimes. But I'm really beginning to think that these companies want their employees in the office. So I'm wondering what you're seeing, if you are noticing that more companies are taking away their virtual or remote working options. And that's one of my fears. Because I don't think that that is long term the best solution for employees who want that flexibility to work remotely on occasion. So, what are your thoughts on that? Let me know. Um, only about two-thirds of remote workers want to continue to work remotely. That means a third of the workers do not want to continue to work remotely. So I don't know. The other fascinating information that I found came from Upwork, and they're a platform that focuses on offering gig opportunities. You can post gigs or find gig work there. And they found in the U.S. that this isn't new, but they analyzed this data. A lot of remote workers are moving. They're moving to areas they can that are closer to their family support. So if they have to take care of an aging family member or they need the support of grandparents to take care of their kids, they're moving closer to those resources to get the additional help. Also finding people who are moving to more rural areas outside of their normal um, urban environment. So I just found that those two articles juxtapositioned is sort of interesting in how that works because on one hand we have people saying, "Oh, I don't want to work remotely," and then on the other hand we have people moving even though the job is remote. What's going to happen if those jobs are called back and you have to go back into the office? These employees have moved. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. What do you have for me? What questions do you all have? Hi, Kim. Thanks for being here. In the very first comment, for those of you that didn't see this, is the link to this week's Summary Sunday. I've just sort of gone through and shared some of the articles, a summary of why I think they're important and what I liked about them. There were two articles that I wrote this week too that I'm going to be giving some more attention, that I want to give some more attention to. And it's sort of the alternative or supplement to your text resume. One of them is about creating a presentation. And I shared three examples of presentation resumes. There is, in essence, PowerPoint presentations that show you who the person really is and what talents they bring to the table. So I want to encourage people to think outside of the box, right? And the resume box is something that we all fall victim to, and I know we use it to apply for jobs, blah, 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 blah. But if you're doing something a little bit different and you're not just applying to jobs, you're doing more than that. You're gaining notoriety or building an online presence, or you're sharing your presentation resume with your network, people you know, to get their feedback, or sharing it with a hiring manager or somebody you would like to work for. Maybe there are other ways for you to get on the radar of people that are doing the hiring in advance of there being a job available. Imagine that. Ooh, so, presentation resume, I want you to think about that. And did you all hear this story? It's not in my Summary Sunday, but there was a guy who worked at Sherwin-Williams in the paint department. He loved mixing paint, and he created a TikTok page. And on his TikTok page, he showed different things you could do with mixing paint. Well, many, and he said, you know, a lot of the supplies I bought myself and I used my own time. There were times where things were slow at work, and I would do this during my working hours. So Sherwin-Williams found out. They said they received customer complaints. I don't quite buy that, but they said that Sherwin-Williams fired the guy because he broke company policy. And so, long story short, his TikToks went viral, and some other paint companies heard about him, and he ended up getting hired by one of these other paint companies who valued his creativity and thought that what he was doing on TikTok was going to be good for their paint brand, and so they hired him. He actually had a couple of different interviews going on with different paint companies. So, warning to companies like Sherwin-Williams, if you are firing somebody without giving them warning for breaking company policy, is that a little short-sighted? That's my story for you. But that's another example of somebody who, you know, in his current job, loved what he was doing, thought outside the box, and the company could have rewarded him, but the company didn't. And that just goes to show you that not all companies will admire you or respect you for what you're doing, but other companies will. So don't be afraid. So I'm reading your comments now, Michael. There may be requirements in the future by local governments to have part of the week be remote. Wouldn't that be awesome? I have a friend who works for the two local towns, and both of them are open and require their employees, all of their employees, to come into the office. That means the guy who oversees the plows and the public transportation and all of that stuff. I'm not quite sure why all of those people need to be in an office. Don't they just need to be able to take phone calls or respond to emails? I'm not sure why they need to go to the office, but I'm glad to hear San Francisco has started this already. Good for San Fran. Kim, I'm glad that you're hearing that companies are being more flexible about remote and being in the office. I really hope that that continues, but some of these stats and numbers that I'm seeing make me a little worried. Yeah, there are some companies that banks and others be remote or be in person, Michael. San Fran requires banks and others to what? Um, yes. So Kim, this whole thing of working remotely does sort of reflect the company value and company culture. And so it is something that job seekers really should consider and think about. What is the company policy on that right now? Has it changed drastically? What is the prospect? In other words, how long is the company committing to offer the remote work option? That is all a reflection of the company culture. Hey Rhonda, so I'm reading your question. Can you give me your thoughts about a company who has let someone go who had never been given a warning and who had always had exceptional reviews just because there were some supposed complaints from staff? The person I'm speaking of was not told that what was said or who said it. It seemed very unfair to me. I think it depends, Rhonda, what state this is happening in. I live in New York State, and New York State is an at-will employer. They can let you go for any reason or no reason anytime they feel like it. So they don't have to give you a reason. I just think that in general, it's a good idea to let the employee know the reason. And it sounds like they knew the reason they were being let go. There were complaints, but they weren't given a warning, which again to me seems like kind of not the greatest policy. That just is my stake. But here's the deal. The company did it. The company probably we don't want to work for. And that person doesn't want to work for again, that the employee who is feeling emotional about this, either mad, angry, frustrated, they need to let that go, move forward, and realize that some companies are like that, and the next company they work for, they want to work for a company that has better policies and procedures around how they take care of their employees. So they want to ask some good questions during the interview about how do you coach and mentor your employees, what is the policy and procedure for professional development and help. General questions like that will help that employee find a company that is much more caring and supportive. Ooh, thank you for answering that, Michael. That's good to know. So San Francisco requires at least 2 days a week be remote, which is awesome. See, I don't know why that's so hard, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Well, any other questions that you all have? Here's the other plea that I'm going to make. If you are interested in creating a presentation resume, in other words, a resume that is a PowerPoint or a some other Google presentation tool, a presentation slide deck of your qualifications and who you are, let me know. Send me, put your name in the comments there, or you probably have my email, which is hmorgan@careersherpa.net. Send me an email and say, hey, Hannah, I want more information about presentation resumes. Okay, because I'm going to be doing some stuff with that in the near future. During times of a tight labor market, these kinds of innovative, creative resumes tend to do well. They're great for networking. They're great for networking. They are not great for submitting online. You're not going to win a job because you submitted your presentation resume online. You may win a job because you shared it with a person you met online, but it's not going to work for applying for jobs online. And if you know me that I don't love the idea that you're spending all your time applying for jobs online. I think there are much better ways for you to be targeting proactively companies that you want to work for. So let's say you have a list of 40 companies you would love to work for. Your goal every single day is to meet new people who work inside those 40 companies. Those are the people that might benefit from seeing your presentation resume, right? Those are people that you're building relationships with, you're learning more about their company, and you want them to learn more about you. That's when you would use a presentation resume. Yeah, so Kim, I've been sharing some stuff on my Twitter feed, and it was in my Summary Sunday. So if you scroll to the bottom of this week's Summary Sunday, you will see I wrote two articles on visual resumes. They're there. So it is now 12:24. If you guys don't have any other questions, I want to wish you a good week. Welcome to this first week of December. The holiday season has officially begun. Here's the deal. Don't overspend. Think about creative ways you can make gifts, give gifts from the heart, not that are financially invested in. Save your money. Nobody needs gifts this year. We're all making do. So this is the year to rethink your gift giving strategy. Okay, and help others do that too. Have that conversation with your family and say, hey, let's make a deal. No gifts. This is what we're going to do. Give gift cards for services that you can deliver. Like, I give you my services to go get groceries one week or whatever that is. Okay, Jennifer, ask away. I'm waiting for your question, Jennifer. So I know there's a lag. Again, don't give gifts. Give personal gift cards. Much better way. If you've got a skill or a craft, if you can make things, make things. Make soap, make candles, make something. It's so much nicer coming from the heart. Aptitude tests of the 50 questions in 15 minutes. I don't know what that means, Jennifer. Um, I don't know what that means. So rather than keep everybody waiting around here, Jennifer, go ahead and explain more in the comment and I'll respond either here or in the comments. So have a great week, everybody. Cheers. Be well. Good seeing you.